Good evening. Welcome to the Caucus meeting of the Florence City Council. The first item is discussion. Consideration of a resolution R25015A of the Boone County Planning Commission recommending approval with a condition for request of Arnold Consulting Engineering Services for Shiv Brahma Lakshmi LLC owner for a zoning map amendment change of concept development plan from suburban residential to plan development and office 2 plan development to office 2 plan development for an approximate 2.06 acre area located at 56 to 58 Cavalier Boulevard, Florence, Kentucky, and providing the recommendation to be forwarded to the City of Florence, Kentucky. Mr. Morgan, would you like to talk about this project for us, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On screen, I'm going to start out with a site vicinity map looking at a 2.06 acre site. It fronts on Cavalier Boulevard. You can see the proximity to the Huff Realty building. It's a zoning map amendment request from suburban residential 2 plan development to office 2 plan development to allow a hotel on the site. This is the zoning map of the property. You can see the eastern side is already zoned office 2 plan development. The proposal would rezone the western side to O2 PD. It's currently zoned again SR2 PD, which is a underlying residential zone. As far as some site history, back in 1996, a concept plan was approved allowing a 14,000 square foot office building that became Huff Realty, and an office restaurant outlot, which of course never occurred. That's the vacant lot. As far as the revised concept plan for the hotel that was approved by the Planning Commission, it's a 50,645 square foot 4-story hotel with 122 rooms. It is a shared driveway with Huff Realty. The parking lot contains 125 spaces, and there are driveway connections to Days Inn and also UC Health over here. Sidewalk connection out to Cavalier Boulevard, which ties into the hotel. With the Planning Commission, they added a gazebo in the rear yard. It is an amenity outside feature. There was buffer yard exceptions approved because weirdly the adjoining property to the north and wester's underlying zone is residential. So it normally requires a large buffer. However, as we know, Huff Realty and UC Health are on those, and those are commercial uses. So there's really not a need for a large landscape buffer. As far as the reason for the zone change, the O2 zone is desired because it allows a building intensity of 30,000 square feet of building per acre of land. So that's needed for the 50,000 square foot hotel. Hotels are typically a conditional use in this zone. However, that's not needed. This is a plan development, and City Council can approve that with the plan development. These were the elevations that were approved by the Planning Commission. You can see the building was largely cement board siding. You can see the percentages over here. So, for example, the front and rear only had 15.8% brick and a PD zone. The majority of your building is supposed to be a masonry material. So the P&Z committee analyzed that, and I'm going to show you some elevations later which increased the percentages of masonry on the building. With that, again, the Planning Commission approval, the sides were 11.8 and 14% brick, and we're going to see that those got increased substantially. These were the gazebo elevations for that gazebo in the rear buffer yard. The 2040 future land use map forecasts a site for commercial uses. Of course, that's being met. Topography, 920 feet. It's fairly flat except for this area. There's a little bit of a berm in this area. Aerial of this site, you can see the shared driveway with Huff Realty, also the driveway connections to Days Inn and UC Health. View of the site from Cavalier, the Huff Realty sign would be relocated to the other side of the driveway. You can see that berm I was talking about. Looking northeast towards Days Inn. On April 2nd, the Planning Commission recommended unanimously to approve the zoning map amendment based largely on the fact that it's consistent with the 2040 future land use map. Their one condition was the sign needed to be relocated, the Huff Realty sign needed to be relocated to the other side of the driveway. And the Planning and Zoning Committee added the following conditions. Number one, the hotel shall be constructed per the revised building elevations that were received on May 20th. The gazebo pillars shall be constructed with the same brick that is being used on the hotel. And thirdly, any proposed rooftop mechanical unit shall be screened by a parapet wall and/or the elevator shaft and not be visible from any public roadway. As far as those elevations that came in on May 20th, you can see the brick on the front and rear got increased to 40 or 39%, so much more than initially proposed. On the two sides, 41.1 and 47.4. Again, a substantial increase. And just an overall view with two facades. That's all I have on this one.
Is there any discussion from council? Gary, did you have anything to report from the Planning and Zoning Committee? Any questions? All right. Seeing none, we will place that on the agenda for next week's meeting. Next is consideration of Resolution R-25-016A of the Boone County Planning Commission, recommending approval with conditions for a request of country cabins for Ryan DeVue applicant for a change in concept development plan and an Office 2 Plan Development Parkway Corridor overlay for a 0.698 acre site located on the south side of Burlington Pike, approximately 235 feet west of Burlington Pike Ewing Boulevard intersection and between the properties of 7673 and 7777 Burlington Pike, providing the recommendation before to the City of Florence, Kentucky. This was discussed at the Planning and Zoning Committee. And Mr. Morgan, do you want to talk about this one as well?
Yes, thank you. Again, on screen, starting out with a site facility map, looking at a .698 acre site, of course, on Kentucky 18 between Waffle House and TA Truck Stop. It's a change in concept plan to allow a cabin, shed, retailer, and a flower shop to occupy the property until the motor vehicle sales, delivery, pickup car business that was approved in 2021 is constructed. So this was the Carplex plan from 2021. This approval would be retained. So again, you can see with this, a new building that was proposed. It was 14 feet from the rear yard property line. New parking lot and right in, right out access point. These were the approved renderings for the building. With this new proposal, country cabins and a flower shop would be permitted to locate on the property, either for temporary use or maybe permanently. So with this plan, you can see the cabin and shed inventory. You can see the country cabins office. New dumpster, outside accessories would be in this area up against 18. This is the flower shop area. So this is the flower shop office. This is the display tables in this area. Of course, that right in, right out access point would remain. You can see the notes, which I've drawn an arrow down to. This is a temporary use with the previously approved Carplex concept plan to remain in effect in the event Country Cabins does not renew their lease. Secondly, cabin inventory may be more than shown if smaller sheds replace bigger sheds. If the garden shop does not come to fruition, sheds and cabins and accompanying accessory inventory outlined in the project narrative will also go in that area. This was the business narrative that was submitted with the request. It's also stapled onto the concept plan approval. I'm just going to highlight some of these first. The retail flower plant shop will be open warm season only and is not a year-round business. If the garden center does not happen, then they will use that space to display more building models. Secondly, Country Cabins would be leasing the property with an option to buy. Thirdly, inventory will consist of cabins and sheds ranging in size from 8 by 10 all the way up to 14 by 40. Other possible inventory would be the following: first, playground sets, polywood furniture, fire pits, annual and perennial plants, gardening tools, gardening accessories, and potting soil. I'm going to jump down to number 6. Signage, they want to install a new monument sign in compliance with the sign code. They will remove the street sign but keep the interstate sign at the back of the property. Banners will comply with city ordinances. Number 8, setbacks. They are proposing the same setbacks as the Carplex plan. That was a 14-foot rear yard setback up against the truck stop. Number 10, the previously approved concept plan for Carplex again shall remain in effect. This is another concept plan that was submitted. It shows their proposal is to provide landscape buffering along Kentucky 18 and the two side property lines, but not do a buffer along the truck stop. These are the photos, some of the photos that were submitted in the 3/5/25 staff report. There's a lot more than these, but this is just a typical garage that you would see in the inventory and a barn. And again, they range in size all the way up to 14 by 40. This is the flower shop photos that were provided to the Planning Commission, just the display tables, also the entry pergola. And the concept plan was revised to show that entry pergola, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. Of course, the zoning of the site is Office 2 Plan Development, and what the Central Florence Strategic Plan says or recommends is that this area should redevelop with an office use. Of course, the comp plan forecasts the site in the year 2040 for office or commercial uses. Topography, fairly flat, a little bit of grade. Of course, in the aerial of the site, to my knowledge, this site's been vacant since for at least 25 years. Of course, Waffle House next door and also the truck stop. Just a picture of the site and two different photos combined. You can see the two freestanding signs on the property. Looking east on 18 towards Ewing Boulevard. Looking west towards the interstate. Of course, across 18, Speedway, and also the vacant repair garage. Waffle House to the east. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this, basically because it was in agreement with the 2040 future land use map. They laid out 10 conditions. I'm not going to go over those. The P&Z is sending this to council without a recommendation. Additional conditions have been drafted for consideration if the application is approved. The first one was that if we approve this, it would be based on this concept plan. It shows the entry pergola, which was shown in the pictures but not shown on the concept plan. And then we have a lot of conditions we went over at the P&Z. So the first one, again, it would be consistent with that May 20th, 25 concept plan. Secondly, Boone County Planning Commission condition number 3 shall be modified as follows. The existing freestanding sign located along Burlington Pike shall be removed or replaced with a monument sign which conforms with the O2 sign regulations, and that's a small monument sign. The monument sign shall only be permitted on site while country cabins and/or the flower shop occupy the property. Any changes to this condition shall be evaluated through the change in concept plan application process. That would ensure it would come back in front of council. Thirdly, Boone County Planning Commission Condition 4 shall be modified as follows. The following building-mounted signs shall be permitted. First, building-mounted signage is permitted on the front facades of the two office buildings per sections 3408.1 and 3199 of the zoning regulations. Secondly, a building-mounted sign is permitted on the front facade of the flower shop entry pergola per the photo submitted at the Boone County Planning Commission Zone Change Committee meeting. The sign shall not be permitted to overhang the edge of the gable roof as shown in that photo. Number 4, Boone County Planning Commission condition number 9 shall be modified as follows. Any sign requiring a permit other than those identified in the Planning Commission and City of Florence conditions for this application shall be prohibited. Number 5, Boone County Planning Commission condition 10 shall be modified as follows. The outside display area for the flower sales area shall be comparable with the photos provided by the applicant at the 3/19/25 Zone Change Committee meeting. The signage shown on top of the trellises shall not be permitted. Number 6, the following conditions shall apply to the country cabins portion of the lot. The office shall be one of the structures shown in the submitted country cabins brochure. Secondly, the front facade of the office building shall have a decorative door with glass and a minimum of 1 window. Garage doors shall not be permitted on the front facade of this building. C, as listed in the country cabins brochure, no sales display structure shall exceed 16 by 40. D, all sales display structures shall be kept in an as-new appearance. E, playground sets shall only be permitted if they are located to the rear of sheds, barns, garages, cabins, or other structures shown in the country cabins brochure. F, as shown in the concept plan, that the loop driveway which goes around the Country Cabins office shall be left free and clear of structures and other inventories to allow deliveries. G, as shown in the concept plan, the display area located between the Kentucky 18 right-of-way and the 30-foot front yard setback line shall be limited to 7 small polywood furniture and/or fire pit items. H, the outside furniture and accessory display area located to the side and rear of the office building shall not extend beyond the limits shown on the concept plan and shall be limited to the following sale display items. That would include single-stacked polywood furniture, single-stacked fire pits, annual and perennial plants displayed on polywood tables or decorative stands, and then gardening tools and accessories when displayed on polywood tables or decorative stands. Letter I, additional outside furniture and accessory displays shall only be permitted in the rear row of the display lot. This 16-foot wide area can contain the following: any structure up to 640 square feet as shown on the Country Cabins brochure. Play sets with the limitation that they cannot exceed the height of the tallest shed, barn, garage, or cabin located on site. Other inventories defined by the project narrative with the limitation that displays shall not exceed 8 feet in height. Potting soils displayed and sold in this area shall be bagged and not sold out of bins in bulk. And J, the dumpster enclosure shall be constructed with brick or textured concrete block and solid gates and be at least 1 foot taller than the dumpster is being screened. 7, the following conditions shall apply to the flower shop portion of the lot. First, the flower shop shall be one of the structures shown in the submitted Country Cabins brochure. Next, the front facade of the flower shop shall have a decorative door with glass and a minimum of 1 window. Garage doors shall not be permitted on the front facade of this building. C, the display lot shall comply with Section 3314 of the zoning regulations. This requires asphalt, concrete, or Portland cement in the parking lot, because that was not defined. Number 8, the following condition shall apply if Country Cabins expands into the flower shop area. First, additional sheds, barns, garages, cabins, and playground sets can be displayed in this area. Outside furniture and accessory sales items as defined in this project narrative shall be permitted in this area if they are screened from Kentucky 18 by other sheds, barns, garages, and play sets. No such display shall exceed 8 feet in height. And lastly, large shrubs shall be planted between the proposed 5.5-foot wide sidewalk and the first tier of sheds, barns, garages, cabins, or play sets that are proposed. Last condition, number 9, any equipment such as forklifts, bobcats, etc. that are part of either business operation shall be kept inside a structure or under a roof when not being used. Such location shall not be visible from Kentucky 18. I know I just went through a lot of conditions, but that is a summary of the conditions that were analyzed by the Planning and Zoning Committee. Again, they are not sending a recommendation to council.
Is there any discussion? Gary, did you have anything?
Yeah, Todd, did they decide, are they fencing that?
No, the tables, as you see on the concept plan, are forming what they're calling a barrier. So there is no fencing proposed, so you do not see a condition regarding fencing.
Okay. Mayor, if I may, just a couple of the things that we had talked about. There was obviously concern about the congestion in that area, trucks, trailers, deliveries in and out of there. Concern about the turning radius for getting product in there. And then the outside sales there, that's not really more of a traditional use than what would be in that area. So that was just some stuff that we had talked about.
All right, anyone else on council? Diane?
Just a whole lot going on here, a whole lot. And I'm not sure that something is better than nothing in this case. We've looked at that vacant lot for a long, long time. There's been a multitude of things proposed there. And finally, as we approved in 2021, after a lot of discussion and work, was the Carplex project. I guess this reminds me a little bit of the barn sales on 42 at the Quadrant or the Jug Handle Road. And it just seems like there's a whole lot going on there. The comments from Gary about the congestion, the deliveries, the turning radius, even though it would be right in and right out, it still would have, I would think, some detriment to the flow of traffic with the truck stop. So I would be hard pressed to believe in this case that something's better than nothing. It's an awful lot. It looks terrible. It hasn't been taken care of. Whether that's a code enforcement issue, whether they've worked on that, or whether that's simply just talking to the owners of the property to ask them to maintain it better. But I would be inclined to think this is probably, 10 pounds in a 5-pound package, is that what they say?
I think that's reflective of why there's so many conditions.
Right?
Angie, did you have additional comments?
I had a question, and one of the conditions state that delivery shall not be conducted on Burlington Pike. Where will deliveries then, like, how would that work? With
Basically,
it being
that
on
means
Burlington
Not
Pike?
stopping on Burlington Pike to make the delivery, to take it in to the complex itself to make the delivery.
Okay,
Unloading.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have we've had historically a lot of issues with the car lots up and down Burlington Pike stopping. And you'll see that former Chief Zerlinski, who is on the Boone County Planning Commission, he is always the first one to put that condition on any car lot up and down through there. So, and that's what it is. There is room to get, chances are they're delivering with a gooseneck in here, and they have some turning movements to get it in. But that's why that condition's in there.
Yes, so one thing I'll add to that is this loop driveway was shown for that reason, for the deliveries, and that's why this area, this U, is being left free and clear, so the truck can come in, go around the U and come back out. And that was one of the conditions, that area has to be left free and clear if this gets approved.
Dave, did you have something?
On 18 itself, is there any parameters that have been addressed or discussed about additional prevention of left-hand turn into that? I know the island is there, but you know how people get.
Well, I can tell you how the last conversation went. I went into work one day and there was a bunch of barriers up and down 18. They never even told anyone. They certainly are analyzing it. There as part of the interchange study, it's a conversation I know Eric has had with KYTC. I know of no immediate actions or additional restrictions outside of when there is new development. KYTC is notorious for restricting curb cuts at that point in time and reducing them. I mean, that's what we ran into on the former Dr. Angel lot across the street. It had multiple curb cuts. In the concept plan that was submitted, they restricted them. They basically said you can't have access to 18.
All right, any other discussion?
I just wanted to just make a comment, just looking through the brochure, I found it funny, some of the items that they would sell, and one is a chicken coop, just throwing that out there, make light of how I feel about that.
Anyone else? All right, next discussion item is consideration of Resolution R-24-036A, the Boone County Planning Commission, Boone County Zoning Text Amendment, the Solar Energy Systems Battery Storage Facilities. Council did instruct us to hold an additional public hearing. That public hearing was held. Those notes and feedback were sent to the Planning and Zoning Committee again, and Mr. Morgan, are you prepared to speak in this, or is it
Yes.
scary, or?
Yes. As you mentioned, we had a public hearing back on April the 15th. Of course, we received public comments at that time. I'm just going to run through those real fast. This is just, again, highlights, not meant to replace the minutes. The first one was remove enclosure concealment requirements in residential zones. Secondly was elevate solar panels in agricultural zones to allow livestock to graze underneath them. Thirdly, allow integrated solar energy systems as a principal and accessory uses. The reason I've highlighted that in yellow is we have made a change to the regulations, which I'll go over, to allow integrated as an accessory use. Number 4 was change roof-mounted solar energy system requirements to allow raised panels on roofs. Number 5, there should be fewer restrictions to encourage residents to install solar panels. Number 6, solar panels shall be installed for efficiency and do not work properly when installed flat on a roof. A clarification was requested regarding solar-powered carports. Would they be considered a ground-mounted or integrated solar energy system? And again, we did change that definition to allow integrated systems on accessory uses, so that would be allowed. Number 8, does conduit have to be painted the same color as the structure? The answer to that was yes. Number 9, requirement for equipment not to be visible from public roadways may not be possible in all cases. Number 10, many solar energy systems require emergency shutoffs for fire and EMS. Number 11, a clarification was requested regarding the Tier 1 battery energy storage definition. I did contact the zoning administrator and confirmed a house could have 2 systems, such as 2 Tesla systems, if each one is under 600 kilowatt hours. But again, the thing is, they could not be tied together as part of one system. There was questions about commercial EV charging. Again, I did point out during the public hearing that was a different zoning, different section of the zoning regulations. The regulations could cause further issues. I did point out during the hearing that the regulations are updated every 5 years, or a particular issue could be analyzed by the city, sent to the planning commission and analyzed by the city quicker than 5 years. And questions regarding small solar lights on walkways, singular panels in yards for emergencies, and flock cameras in right-of-ways was brought up. And just some notes regarding that. Small solar lights would be integrated solar energy system. Singular solar panels in residential yards would be prohibited. And city or state flock cameras in right-of-ways are exempt from zoning. This was the first change the committee made, and again, this was the one to allow solar energy systems integrated as either a principally permitted or accessory use. So the new definition in yellow, it's a solar energy system where the solar materials are incorporated into the principal or accessory structure, building materials, such that the structure and solar systems are reasonably indistinguishable, or where the solar materials are used in place of traditional building components, such that the solar energy system is structurally an integral part of the principal or accessory structure. So that was a change that was made by the committee. We also made a change just to reinforce that the solar panels, when they're roof mounted, must be flush mounted to the roof. So the new letter F, solar panels shall be flush mounted on pitched roofs and be positioned so as not to extend above the edge of any ridge, hip, valley, or eave. Those were the only 2 changes, again, that were considered by the Planning and Zoning Committee. We can go over anything else, but that's what I have to report.
Gary, did you have anything that you wanted to
No, Todd
add?
got it all.
Anyone else on council? All right, thank you. Next is discussion of board appointments. First, the Code Enforcement Board, the terms of Lance Howard and David Spilly are set to expire on June 30th, and both Mr. Howard and Mr. Spilly have requested a willingness to serve an additional term. That term would be effective July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2028, and council was provided with their biographies. Is there any discussion? Next, OKI Intermodal Coordinating Committee. We have Tom Gagnon as our city representative and Justin Finke as the alternate. We are recommending reappointing Tom Gagnon as the representative and appointing Joseph Newton, our risk manager, to replace Justin as the alternate representative. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say I've met Tom, and he is really good at his job. I really appreciate what he does for the city, so you've got a good employee there.
Thank you. And finally, Kenny Vaught, a City of Florence appointee of the Boone County Planning Commission, has passed away. His passing has resulted in a vacancy for the Florence appointed seat on the Boone County Planning Commission. Mr. Thomas Judd has expressed an interest in filling this vacancy, and he has served on our Board of Adjustment since April of 2022. He is very dedicated at attending these meetings, and so is our recommendation that we have Mr. Judd fill the unexpired term for Mr. Vaught. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I think that'd be an excellent choice.
Thank you. All right. Next, I'd like to call on Finance Director Jason Lewis for Budget Amendment Number 2 for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Thank you, Mayor. As discussed during the budget retreat, medical claims and pharmacy claims are up 23% versus fiscal year 23-24, and large claims are really driving that increase. Large claims are up 19% year over year. So myself and Laura Grant, our HR coordinator, did a deep dive into our health and dental self-insurance fund and determined that a budget amendment would be required to get us through the remainder of the fiscal year, given the high amount of outstanding claims. As of the end of May, we have around $500,000 in outstanding claims, and those don't include anything that'll come in June. So we are looking to raise the budget here for the health and dental reinsurance fund, a total of $319,800 on the expense side. It's an 8% increase versus budget amendment number 1. Another couple items here. Our bank service charges have been quite a bit higher than expected. We're close to about $5,000 for the year. Also, we've seen quite the uptick in HRA claims. So those are split into 2 different types. I think one of the things that we're looking at is ensuring that our employees know that, those who have HRA money available, that they're able to use that. So that's something we'll be looking to do over the next year or two, is ensure that everyone's aware of that pool that they can spend on HRA. And then also, we've seen an uptick in our Section 125 employee reimbursements, so our FSA. So Laura and I look closely at all of these different items and determine that, given the high claim volume for this fiscal year, as well as the outstanding claims and claims that are yet to come, we are proposing to raise the budget for the Health and Dental Self-Insurance Fund, Fund 703.
Is there any discussion?
So that's reflected on which page of the attachment?
Page 9.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none. I'd like to go into the budget address. In the past, we've done the budget address in State of the City. This is specifically here, just the budget address tonight, this evening, talking about this upcoming budget. So, good evening, council members, department heads, and members of our Florence community. It is my pleasure to present this annual budget address. Our annual city budget reflects the ongoing dedication of the City of Florence departments as they work tirelessly to serve our residents. This address is to provide insight regarding our budget process. It is through careful review of each area of city government that a budget is proposed that allows each department to have the personnel, equipment, training, and facilities that support our endeavors. Our finance director was able to compile all the requests to produce a comprehensive document for city council review. This budget document outlines a future direction for Florence, one focused on smart growth, fiscal responsibility, and community investment. Our budget has been developed and implemented with the dedication by our talented city staff. Their work brings this vision to life, department by department, initiative by initiative, in order to serve our residents' needs. A public workshop was held with council for discussion regarding the proposals from each department, as well as our city's revenue projections, enterprise fund activity, capital projects, and outside agency requests. Council has been presented with the opportunity to discuss the proposed budget with myself and our finance director through individual meetings. At this public meeting tonight, we present discussion on the budget ordinance. The proposed budget ordinance reflects the collaborative process that was begun over the past few months. Tonight's presentation of the proposed city budget represents more than just numbers on a page. It reflects a vision for Florence's future. Since taking office, I've been committed to leading our city with clarity, accountability, and purpose. Since becoming mayor, I've remained focused on several core priorities: providing for public safety, maintaining infrastructure, stimulating economic development, while providing a high quality of life for our residents and keeping our taxes low. This budget addresses the core functions of government and serves as a vehicle to address these priorities. As Florence continues to grow and develop, we see increased demands across all departments, fueled by new neighborhoods and housing developments taking shape across the city, along with incorporation of additional areas into Florence's boundaries. We have experienced significant residential growth in recent years. These changes create exciting opportunities, but also require infrastructure investment, expanded services, and forward-looking planning. Over the past 2 years, our operating costs have increased, driven by staffing needs, rising service calls, rising material prices, greater community engagement, and the escalating costs of delivering high-quality services in a modern city. We have added key personnel in police and fire, finance, administration, and public services to meet the evolving needs of our residents. Technology costs have also risen as we modernize systems to better serve the public and safeguard our digital infrastructure. As our city continues to grow, we are managing more public inquiries and records requests than ever before, reflecting both increased public engagement and our ongoing commitment to transparency. Florence is also more welcoming now than ever. We have revived longstanding community events and launched new ones that bring residents together to celebrate what makes our city unique. This increased activity has required added coordination, staffing, and logistical support reflected in our administration and public services budgets. Each city department carefully reviewed its needs and submitted the thoughtful budget requests to support the increasing demands placed on their teams. What is particularly noteworthy this year is that despite expanding services, growing capital investments, and increased public engagement, our overall budget remains relatively flat. That is not a coincidence. It is a result of strong planning and a commitment to responsible fiscal stewardship. One of the first conversations I had with our new finance director was about the importance of maintaining long-term financial stability. We both agreed that sound planning, not reactive decisions, is the foundation of a healthy financial future. Jason Lewis and our department heads have embraced this principle wholeheartedly, crafting a budget that does more with the same. Their work ensures that we are living within our means while still enhancing services and improving the quality of life for Florence residents. For department-specific requests, the police department is requesting additional personnel to meet rising call volumes, maintain strong community policing, reduce response times, investments in body-worn camera upgrades, fleet replacements. Investigative tools are necessary to ensure our officers remain safe and effective in the field. Additional expenditures for employee health programs and range operations ensure that our officers are mentally and physically prepared to excel in their career in law enforcement. The Fire and EMS Department is also seeing a significant growth in calls for service. As of this year, we are now the busiest department in Northern Kentucky based upon run volume. Our Fire EMS Department is requesting updating equipment to maintain the highest quality emergency response, especially as the city expands geographically. Budget requests for items such as certification of the drone program, fire equipment, protective gear, vehicle maintenance, EMS certifications, a staff vehicle, and vehicle exhaust system have been included in this year's proposed budget. The Public Services Department has requested funding to continue core responsibilities like road resurfacing, sidewalk repairs, stormwater maintenance, and parks maintenance. With more parks, more events, and newly expanded territories, their scope of work has grown. This budget reflects the addition of 2 vehicles, equipment, and technology requests that support that growth. The Finance Department is requesting funding for new software to better manage our increasingly complex budget, strengthen internal oversight, and enhance transparency tools available to both staff and residents. In addition to these investments, I have directed staff to begin a full review of our investment policy, an important step in ensuring our financial management practices are modern, strategic, and aligned with industry standards. As our financial responsibility grows, so must our capacity to manage them wisely. The Administration Department is requesting funding for improved communication tools, staffing to handle public inquiries and records requests, and expanded event coordination as we respond to higher levels of citizen engagement and participation. The Administration Department handles all IT, insurance, and human resources functions for the city. The proposed budget reflects the inflationary pressures we are facing in providing those critical services. As our departments expand to meet the needs of a growing community, the demand for additional space within the Florence Government Center has become increasingly apparent. Departments such as police, public service, finance, and administration are facing space limitations that impact their efficiency. Addressing these needs is not just about the physical space, it is about creating an environment that allows our teams to deliver services effectively, embrace innovation, and achieve excellence in every task we perform. As we grow, we must ensure our facilities grow with us. This year's budget reflects improvements to our Government Center campus that will allow us to meet the developing needs of our city personnel. I'd like to speak about the overall health of our city. Florence is in extremely strong financial position with healthy reserves that have grown substantially, outpacing current needs. These reserves place us in a position of strength, ready to face any challenge that may come our way, and enable us to plan for the future. This year, we began the planning process by entering into what I call the year of master planning. We are currently reviewing 6 city-owned properties in the historic corridor on the east side of town through a master plan process shaped by community input and public engagement. We are also undertaking a master planning process for the Florence Aquatic Center to reimagine that space for future generations. While there are no requests in this proposed budget for either of these projects, please note that I anticipate there will be budget requests for these projects in the foreseeable short-term future. In contrast, it is through a comprehensive Parks Master Plan that we are proposing a substantial funding for city parks in this year's budget. Under my direction, this budget reflects a conscious choice to return value to our residents by enhancing 6 city-owned parks. We are requesting council to utilize our reserves, allocating a $10 million investment over the next 2 years. This investment will begin the implementation of the first phase of 4 proposed phases of park improvements. This phased approach of targeted capital projects ensures that our green spaces will continue to meet the high expectation of Florence residents while returning their tax dollars to them in the form of first-class city amenities. A few months ago, I also instructed staff to begin evaluating both the insurance premium tax and property tax rates, considering rising property valuations and forthcoming changes to our investment policy. It is my recommendation that we consider significant reductions in both tax rates in a phased approach. These proposals will be discussed in detail later this summer at our tax rate hearing and in conversations with council over the coming months. These efforts reflect our commitment to responsible stewardship while giving back to the residents who make Florence the incredible community that it is. In closing, I want to emphasize that every dollar of this budget is rooted in our responsibility to serve our residents. We are investing in public safety and infrastructure, expanding capacity, and responding to real trends and real data. This year's budget proposal reflects a prioritization of the delivery of those core services, along with a deliberate commitment to return tax dollars to the citizens in the form of additional city amenities. This budget gives Florence the tools we need to keep moving forward responsibly, strategically, and with the future in mind. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you to our dedicated city staff and community members who make Florence the city we're proud to call home. And at this time, I'd like to call on our Finance Director, Jason Lewis, who will review the specific numbers of our budget.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, thinking back on my experience, many of you may know I worked at the largest Procter & Gamble plant in the United States as their finance manager, and we would actually do 5 budgets a year, so 5 annual budgets. And the reason we do that is to hold our departments accountable for their costs. So our pods line, our liquid detergent lines, we would go through this process that we've been through over the past couple months 5 times a year to keep everyone accountable. And my biggest concern, I think, coming into this role was that we didn't really have a mechanism to do that. However, I would like to thank my fellow department heads. You guys have been incredibly diligent from what I've seen so far in managing your own budgets. That is something that, as finance director, I very much appreciate. So I just kind of wanted to say that off the top. From a revenue perspective, one thing, I follow the economic news closely, and one thing I look at is our organic growth. So I say organic growth versus non-organic growth. So if I look in the past 4 or 5 years, we've received a lot of CARES, ARPA, federal money, and that money obviously is drying up. So I want to, for this upcoming fiscal year, keep a close eye on our city's organic growth and how that plays into our proposed budget. So that's something I'll be keeping an eye on for the city. Overall, I would say that putting together this budget, I've learned an incredible amount about how the city operates and the priorities the mayor has, council, department heads have. And when I look at this upcoming fiscal year's budget, I see a lot of good things that, we can deliver to our citizens, and I feel very proud of that. Overall, just looking at the totals for each of our funds, so our 8 different funds, they're quite balanced in terms of, if we're going up in one place, we tend to be going down in another. Obviously, our operating costs, as the mayor said, are continuing to increase, and that's something we keep a close eye on. However, our overall capital spend is down, projected to be down for next year. So one thing you'll see from me this summer during our first budget amendment is you'll see the updated fund balances. So when we complete our fiscal year at the end of this month, we'll have a sense on where we really came in for this fiscal year, and we'll update that during our next budget amendment for fiscal year 25-26. Overall, I think the mayor's correct to say that we are in a strong financial position as a city, and that's something that it is my duty to ensure that we continue on that upward trajectory. I would caution all of us when we look at large numbers on a spreadsheet, not to get too comfortable seeing those numbers all the time. That's something that I am guilty of quite often, having worked for a large corporation. Just because a number is what it is now, it may go up, it may go down, that's something that we need to keep a close eye on. But overall, we want to make sure our bottom line is strong. We want to make sure our revenues are offsetting our expenses. And we do that by continuing to invest in the city and invest in our community. Mayor, I'm open to taking any questions, going through individually if you'd like, kind of open to your suggestions on how to proceed from here.
Anyone have any questions?
Is the document that you'll be presenting next Tuesday for first reading identical to the document that was presented to the council
Yes, ma'am.
at the budget retreat with no changes?
No, ma'am.
Any other discussion? Sorry. Okay. Next, we have amendments to the job descriptions, authorized positions, and the pay plan. Josh, do you want to handle that?
Talk about it if you want. Or I'll talk about one of the positions, and then you can flip it to Eric, because I think this is in relation to both positions. So this is, I guess, a continuation of a conversation that we had at the budget workshop. Specifically, what we're talking about changing is the title and classification for the human resources position. The current title is Human Resource Coordinator. Doesn't really reflect the responsibilities and expectations of the role. Based off the scope of work and the level of responsibility on that position, it more closely aligns to a Human Resource Director. So within your council packets, I believe you received a job description for Director of Human Resources. And with that reclassification comes a pay adjustment, which will be reflected in have they received the pay plan yet? We talked about what the pay plan was, but if not, you'll receive that certainly by next week's budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we have it done, but it'll be in next week's packet.
And then there is a TID position as well. I don't know if you want to talk on that.
I mean, I can briefly talk about that. We have had several conversations about the TID project manager. When we went through this, when you guys voted to create a TID, Transportation Improvement District, for those watching, in the city of Florence, and as part of that, we established, and I proposed and discussed during the budget retreat, the need for an individual to oversee that and facilitate the entire process from seeking funds through grants to orchestrating and facilitating the board itself. So the goal is ultimately to, by the end of this year, is my goal going into this, we'll work through that, to have a position and board in place. Doesn't mean it has to, that's just a personal goal I have to work towards. So the job description's in there. I put it together personally based on reviewing other ones in different states that have TID positions of this nature. So that's how I got to that point.
Is there any other questions for Eric or Josh regarding the two positions? And they will be reflected in the authorized position list and the pay plan and the job descriptions that will be forwarded to them for their packet for next week, correct? All right, and then next, Josh, is the personnel policy amendments. These
Yeah.
were items that were discussed at the budget retreat.
Correct. So there was 3 proposed amendments to the Personnel Policy Manual that we discussed at a high level. You all have had the opportunity to kind of review the in-depth language changes to that, but for the purpose of the people in the audience, I guess I'll give a quick rundown of what the 3 were. So the first amendment relates to the pregnancy and parental leave language. Under the current policy, employees may take up to 6 weeks of unpaid leave. The proposed revision would maintain the 6-week leave period, but introduce 2 weeks of paid parental leave for the birth or adoption of a child. So that was the first amendment. There's probably a lot more language associated with that, but that's a brief overview. The second proposed amendment addresses seniority pay. Currently, only employees hired before July 1st, 2011 are eligible to receive a small increase to their hourly rate of pay upon reaching service milestones at 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25 years of service. The proposed change would make this benefit universal, extending eligibility to all employees regardless of their hire date. And along those same lines, the last proposed amendment involves the education incentive. Currently, only employees hired before June 30th, 2009, who hold advanced college degrees that exceed the requirements of their current job classification receive a rate of pay increase. The proposed change would make this benefit available to all eligible employees regardless of their hire date. We did discuss this kind of high level at the budget retreat, and if you have any specific questions, I do have Ms. Laura Grant hiding over here in the corner, so we could bring her up to talk about those if you have any questions.
Council, have any discussion? Any questions? Okay. And then, Mr. Hall, if you could just report on the Municipal Aid Road Fund, MARF.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. So, talked about this with council during our budget retreat, but I think it's important for the community to also know where these funds are going to go this year. Some of you, most of you may or may not know about the MARF. MARF is, it's basically, we call it the gas tax, motor fuel tax. So we receive if the number's still the same, it's 7.7% of the total amount available to the state, which was $52 million last year. And that allotment is then distributed based on your population, per city population. So how we have allotted the funds that we have received in 3 primary areas. The first one, we'll call it in-house, so that's the staff, our transportation crew that works for me to fund the things they do along roadways. And I'll talk about some areas that we will be starting in July 1 and through that fiscal year. So we will be in the Weatherington area a lot. More specifically, Gettysburg Lane, Planters Trail, Hamilton Court, Jackson Court, Mimosa Trail, Scarlet Way, Stonewall Trail, 12 Oaks Drive, Fontaine Court, and Calvert Court. We will also be in Saddlebrook this year, and that more specifically Claiborne Court, Trotters Way, Saratoga Way, Tattersall Lane, Sassafras Lane, Morgan's Trace, just that main drive, Thornhill Drive, Harness Lane, Winfield Way, Belmont Court, Hitching Post Place, and Saddlebrook Lane. And finally, we will also be in the kind of the Allison area, which is Claxton, Joanne, Thomas, Wallace, Regine, Colonial Drive, and Allison Avenue. That's over that stuff behind Stringtown Park. And then finally, we will be doing some stuff on Weatherington Boulevard as well. So that is how the in-house $265,000 will be spent. On the contracted side, we have $285,000 allotted for improvements on three streets, and that is Bustetter Drive, Frida Place, and Lucas Street. So those are how those funds will be, and that third item is for snow removal and emergency. So we allot some funding there, and that is where we cover the cost of salt each year. So, open any questions?
Anyone have any questions? All right. For the mayor's report, just want to remind everyone to join us on Sunday, June 8th, from 12 to 4 for a community open house at the Fire EMS Station Number 34, our new headquarters, and that is at 8101 Dream Street. Everyone is welcome to tour the new facility and meet our dedicated first responders. Join us also for movies in the park this June. Movies are free, and there will be complimentary popcorn. Food and drinks will be available for purchase. Each event will begin at 8:30 p.m. On Friday, June 13th, we'll do Inside Out 2 at the Florence Nature Park. Friday, June 20th, there's Top Gun Maverick at the Skis Senior Center on 7431 US 42. Please bring your lawn chairs, blankets, and your favorite people. For more information, please contact the Administration Department at 859-647-8177. And mark your calendars for our Independence Day celebration, again on July 3rd at the Florence Government Center, 8100 Ewing Boulevard. Live music will be by Under the Sun beginning at 7 p.m. and come enjoy an evening of community celebration and patriotic spirit. There will be a kids zone, fireworks at 10 p.m., and our Florence Community Band will perform at 5:45 p.m. Rain date for the fireworks only will be Friday, July 4th. For more information, you can contact the Administration Department at 859-647-8177. Is there anyone in council that desires recognition? Ms. Whalen?
I just want to mention the passing of a longtime firefighter, retiree. Marty Thomas served the Florence Volunteer Fire Department for many, many years. He lived and breathed it. He made sure he was there to help introduce the new guys to fire service, and I think probably his dying wish would have been exactly what he got, which was the honor guard from the fire department and the escort. Some of the retired firefighters were his pallbearers, but he truly cared about the city of Florence and the fire service, and we appreciate all he did during the course of his life, and he'll be missed. So our condolences to his family.
Absolutely, condolences to his family. Anyone else? Any department head? Chief Mallory?
Thank you, Mayor. You spoke earlier about reviving programs and events. I just want to mention that we are bringing back our CSI camp, June 24th through the 26th. It's a camp for kids that are going into 6th grade or 7th grade, and it's open to all Boone County residents with preference given to Florence residents. But I think it's going to be a maximum of 20 kids that we're going to be able to do in this camp. So if you have any kids and going to 6th or 7th grade, they can get on our Facebook page. There's a application for them to fill out. We ask that the parents help them fill it out, but there's a section that says, why are you interested? Please have the student fill that out so we know why they're interested. But the applications are due back by June 20th. So if anybody's interested, please fill that out.
They need to be returned to you?
I'm sorry,
Return them to the department?
to the Community Resource Sergeant, Sam Riley.
Jason?
Mayor, I wasn't sure if you mentioned the dive-in movie night.
Oh, I did not. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep, so I'll just highlight a couple aquatic center items. So tomorrow is Child Pool Safety Day, so Josh and I just brought over 2 big boxes of coloring books with pool safety type fun stuff on there. So that's tomorrow. And then we have our recreation days, June 5th through 6th. So we'll have some coupons to give out for first 200 folks to come in for World of Golf. And then the big one is Saturday evening. We have our dive-in movie night. The movie is Luca. That's one of my kids' favorite ones, actually, so I may have had a part in that. So that's a great movie, and I think we'll get a good crowd. Obviously, we had an enormous crowd out there today, so people are getting excited for the pool. Just wanted to kind of share those items.
Thank you. Any other department heads? Anyone in the audience desire recognition?
Hi, Council. Zeb Gentry again. So first thing with the solar energy system, I quickly wanted to mention, there was that one change that I think is really good for the accessory use and everything. But the ordinance still, as it's written, is going to increase the cost a lot to install solar. And as someone that already has solar, it wouldn't affect me, but it would affect my neighbors if they wanted that. And I mean, just in the last week, we've had an article come out about energy costs going up 10 to 15%. Starting in July, I believe it is, for a lot of Duke Energy residents, specifically in Ohio, I think Kentucky as well. So that's something that if energy costs are already rising and residents of the city can get solar energy to reduce those costs, it's good for them to be able to do that affordably. And some of the recommendations that the ordinance has, like blocking off stuff with fencing or the paint matching or cables not being visible, while they may seem like small items, they add up to increased costs that I think the city really needs to take into account how much of a improvement those small things make compared to the cost each homeowner in the entire city, if they wanted that to be done, would get. So that's just the part for the solar. And a second item that I wanted to talk about, and Chief Mallory, please hold me off on this, or wait till I'm done with it, but the flock cameras in the city. I think that it's good for us to have systems like that, technology like that, that can help to see individuals that have done things like steal cars or performed in actions that are bad, that we can identify that they're here at this location and send police to them. I think that Flock Safety, specifically the company, is a company that we should not associate in our city, specifically because of the technology that they're using is not something that I think the city should see as good, should incorporate. Specifically, there is a lawsuit currently the Institute for Justice is performing against the city of Norfolk because of the flock cameras that they have. And the reason I bring it up is because a judge has actually denied the motion to dismiss, specifically because it matches another lawsuit in the past, Carpenter v. United States. Because of the number of flock cameras and the tracking that can occur, it is a little bit of intrusion of your Fourth Amendment rights. And that's something that lawsuit was about cell phone tracking, and the judge saw in that dismissal for the motion to dismiss, or the rejection of the motion to dismiss, the parallels are very, very similar. And especially when you have some, in the last 2 weeks, we've had more, last 3 weeks, we've had more articles, specifically like 404 Media has had multiple about ICE using it to, without warrants, find migrants to go after, or a sheriff in Texas using it to find a woman that had an abortion. And while these are decisive topics, while you can have feelings one way or the other in terms of how we as a society should be accepting those topics, I don't think we should allow that tracking with a warrantless statute that currently Flock allows to exist in our city. It would be good if we could get some other type of LPR software technology that could do the same feature set of vehicles that pass by that are flagged to be, a notification given to the police that they're here in this location, and that would be good. But in general, we should look at flock cameras and if that's something we want to continue. And I brought it up today because of the more recent articles and because of the budgetary fiscal year happening soon, that I know that that's something that could be looked at or discussed, and I feel like that discussion should happen. So, and even flock safety specifically, they're even building a new tool that whenever someone passes by with a vehicle, they could actually take the ALPR information for the license plate and then track that down to an individual, and then also who that individual is associated with, families, friends, stuff like that. It's taking a lot of data outside of just what Flock System has and incorporating it in a way that I believe really affects our Fourth Amendment rights. So that's something that I wanted to bring up to the council and at least get that discussion to happen, to see what there might be from that. So that's what I wanted to bring forward with that. And if there's any information about specific articles or specific the lawsuit that's happening against the city of Norfolk or anything, I would be happy to give that. But yeah, so.
Thank you so much for coming and your comments. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ms. Whalen, second by Mr. Nguyen. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming.